Welcome to the Spark Learning session. Today, we'll be talking about Spark streaming. Now, let me briefly give introduction of what Spark streaming is. Spark streaming is something that is rapidly advancing and changing fast. There are multiple new libraries every year, new and different services always popping up. What is in this notebook may or may not apply to you. Maybe you're looking for something specific to Kafka, or maybe you're looking for streaming about Twitter, in which case Spark might be overkill for what you really want. Realistically speaking, each situation is going to require a customized solution, and this course is never going to be able to supply one size fits all solution. Because of this, I want to point out some great resources for Python and Spark streaming. Here, we have some resources. That's it. Official documentation. This is official documentation. And there's some fantastic Spark streaming with Kafka guide here. Also, under geoplotting about Kafka streaming. Now, Spark has pretty well known streaming capabilities. We all know that. If streaming is something you have found yourself needing at work, then you're probably familiar with some of these concepts already, in which case you may find it more useful to jump straight to the official documentation here. This is a latest Spark streaming guide that talks about structure streaming. This is something that talks about a structure streaming. And it's a very, very nice guide. Spark structure streaming, and it uses the SQL kind of type of queries. Now, let's move on to some more. It's a really good idea, great guide, but keep in mind that some of the features are restricted in Scala at this time. Hopefully, they'll expand to Python API in future. For those of you new to Spark streaming, let's get started with a classic example, streaming Twitter. Twitter is a great resource for streaming because it's something most people already have an intuitive understanding of. You can visit the site yourself, and lots of streaming technology has come out of Twitter as a company. You don't access the entire fire hose, you don't have access to entire fire hose of Twitter without paying for it. But that would be too much for us to handle anyway. So we'll be more than fine with the freely available API access. Now, let's discuss Spark streaming. Spark streaming is an extension of a core Spark API that enables scalable, highly throughput, fault tolerant stream processing of live data streams. Data can be ingested from many sources like Kafka, Flume, Kinesis, or TCP sockets and can be processed using complex algorithms expressed with high level functions like map, reduce, join window. Finally, process data can be pushed out of the file systems, databases, live boards, dashboards. In fact, you can apply Spark's machine learning and graph processing algorithm on data streams. Now, by listening to what I've said to you, have you learned something about streaming yet? Think about it. Now, let me tell you more about streaming if you have not already learned what I've told you, because this is more a diagram approach. Some people may be more visually oriented than audiology oriented, so that's why I'll put a picture here, diagram. It helps you learn about Spark streaming. There's a diagram here where middle box is a Spark streaming service, and it takes input of Kafka, Flume, SGFS, Kinesis, and Twitter, and is processed by Spark Streaming and is stored in SGFS databases and dashboards. Those are output where the Spark Streaming goes from. Keep in mind that a few of these streaming capabilities are limited when it comes to Python. You need to reference the documentation for most up-to-date information, and also streaming context tends to follow more along with older RDD syntax. This is not true anymore because Spark streaming has been upgraded to structured streaming, so a few things might seem different than that we're used to seeing, keeping in mind that we'll definitely want to have a good understanding of lambda expressions before continuing with this. This is structured streaming and is the latest one. And this is a good one actually. This is a good guide and it's the latest guide we have. Now, do you know what a structured streaming is from a little bit what I've told you? Structured streaming is something that is based on SQL. And if you are familiar with SQL, it's very easy to use. Now, this is the input stream data, the Spark streaming, and it produces batches of input data, and your Spark engine, and produces a batch of process data. So it is a basically that comes before Spark engine that produces a batch of data for Spark engine to feed on. So think about what you learned today. Let me quickly summarize what we learned today. We learned about Spark streaming, and Spark streaming is a capability that Spark has. Is an extension of the Spark API. It allows for a scalable, high throughput, fault-tolerant stream processing of live data streams. Data can be ingested from many sources like Kafka, Flume, Kinesis, or TCP sockets and can be processed using complex algorithms expressed with high-level functions like map, reduce, join windows. This helps us to apply machine learning algorithms in live data, and that can be fed into a Spark engine. So that's all for today. I will see you next learning session. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.